Hey Falcons fans! If you're ready for all the latest updates on our Atlanta Falcons and don't want to miss a thing, hit that like button because we've got an exciting recap of their Week 8 win over the Buccaneers, so let's get started. Who were our fantasy stars and who fell a little short this week? Let's break it down! First, let's acknowledge that the Falcons are on fire. After failing to reach the 30-point mark all last season, they've reached it in 3 of their last 4 games, with all of those games coming against our NFC South rivals. And this, of course, was the sweetest of them all, a thrilling last-second win over the Buccaneers, putting us in first place in the division. All right, let's talk about our best fantasy performer of the game, Kyle Pitts. Yep, that's right. Pitts had a career game, finally showing the explosiveness we've all been waiting to see. He finished the game with 4 receptions for 91 yards and 2 touchdowns, bringing in 21.1 points in standard leagues and 25.1 points in PPR leagues. And the timing couldn't have been better, as it all happened on National Tight End Day. Pitt's big plays came in the first half, starting with a 36-yard reception on 4th down. Kirk Cousins threw a pass upfield, and Pitts made a fantastic catch at the 17-yard line, turning upfield and outrunning the last defender to get to the end zone. And just when we thought he couldn't top that, he hit us with another electrifying 49-yard catch and run. He nearly fumbled the ball right in the end zone as Antoine Winfield closed in, but thankfully the referees ruled it inconclusive, so the touchdown stood. This performance put Pitts as the best fantasy TE of the week in standard leagues, and also scored the most fantasy points he's ever scored in a single game. Over the past 4 weeks, Pitts has been on a roll, consistently posting at least 65 receiving yards and moving into the top 5 in fantasy points for tight ends this season. For those of you with Pitts on your fantasy rosters, it looks like he's found his groove, so keep him in those lineups with confidence going forward. Now, while Pitts was lighting up the fantasy scoreboard, it was a down day for our WR1, Drake London. He finished with just 4 catches for 34 yards, giving him just 3.4 points in standard leagues and 7.4 points in PPR leagues. This game marked his lowest fantasy points since Week 1, which is surprising considering he's been incredibly consistent over the past few weeks. London was on a roll, with double-digit PPR points in 6 straight games and 5 touchdowns in his last 6 outings. Coming into Week 8, he was ranked as the overall WR4 in fantasy, so expectations were high. But as is often the case with a deep offense, sometimes players have to take a back seat. This week, it was London's turn, as Pitts and Darnell Mooney stole the spotlight with big gains through the air. While he didn't find the end zone or rack up a ton of yards, don't let this game worry you too much. Sometimes with a deep offense, there are a lot of mouths to feed, and this week London had to step back a bit. We know what he's capable of, so I expect London to bounce back next week. For all you fantasy managers out there, continue to start him with confidence. Something to really appreciate here is how consistent the Falcons' offense has become this season. With Kirk Cousins taking the lead and a talented group of receivers and running backs, this team has completely turned things around offensively. The Falcons have topped 30 points 3 times in the last month alone, which was virtually unheard of last season. For Falcons fans, this offensive surge is a breath of fresh air, and it's showing up in the fantasy world as well. We're seeing big performances from multiple players each week, whether it's Bijan Robinson, Pitts, or London. It's clear that this team has found a groove, and with November and the playoff race looming, the timing couldn't be better. What's next for Falcons fantasy players? ***. So, looking ahead, Falcons fans, what do you think? Are you impressed with Pitt's standout play? Do you think he'll keep up this level of performance going forward? And what about London? Will he bounce back strong next week? Who do you think will be our next fantasy star against the Vikings? Now for some important injury updates as the Falcons prepare for a big matchup this Sunday against the Dallas Cowboys. Now, let's start with the big picture. After our 31-26 win over the Buccaneers, we're very excited. This win gives us 4 wins out of our last 5 games and puts us atop the NFC South. The team is looking strong, and there's even more good news on the horizon with potential returns from key players. Head coach Raheem Morris gave some positive updates on linebacker Troy Anderson and center Drew Dalman. Both players have been missing from the field, Anderson with a knee injury that has kept him out since Week 4, and Dalman, who has been on injured reserve for 5 weeks dealing with an ankle injury. But there's hope for their return soon. Coach Morris mentioned that Anderson is currently day-to-day, even participating in a few practices last week, which is a great sign. As for Dalman, he's showing steady progress and has been putting in some solid workouts with the trainers. While his 21-day practice window off injured reserve hasn't officially begun, it appears it's only a matter of time before we see him back on the active roster. While the updates on Anderson and Dalman are encouraging, there's less clarity surrounding rookie defensive tackle Rook Orhorhoro. He went down with an ankle injury in the third quarter against Tampa Bay and had to leave the game. Coach Morris didn't elaborate on Orhorhoro's condition immediately after the game or during Monday's press conference. However, he expects to get a full update soon, possibly after a team meeting on Tuesday. It could be a blow to the defensive line if Orhorhoro is unable to go on Sunday. But the team is hopeful and waiting for the full medical report to see how they will address his injury in practice this week. The Falcons, 5-3, will face the Cowboys, 3-4, at Mercedes-Benz Stadium on Sunday in what is shaping up to be a big test. If we can get Anderson and Dalman back on the field, it would be a huge boost to our defense and offensive line depth, especially as we try to keep this winning streak going. The Cowboys are coming off a rough patch, so this game could have big implications as we get closer to the playoff race. Alright, that's it for today's injury update. What do you guys think? Are you excited to potentially see Anderson and Dalman back in action? And how do you think their returns could impact this team's performance against Dallas? Let us know in the comments below. Now, here's the scoop. Kirk Cousins has been, shall we say, average against most of our other opponents this season. In his 6 games against non-Buccaneers teams, he's put up around 200 passing yards per game, with 6 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. Not exactly numbers to write home about, right? Atlanta has gone 3-3 in those games, so pretty average. But it's a whole different story when Cousins faces the Buccaneers. This guy becomes unstoppable, becoming a literal playmaker. Let's break down the numbers to show just how epic Cousins has been against Tampa Bay. In just 2 games this season, he's racked up nearly 800 yards through the air and 8 touchdowns with just 1 interception. He's been using the middle of the field like a master screen artist, and he was back in Week 8 with nearly 300 passing yards, 4 touchdowns, and 0 turnovers. That performance helped us secure a thrilling and, more crucially, a 2-0 win against the Bucs, a crucial tiebreaker in our bid for a divisional title. One of the highlights? A perfectly executed 13-yard run and a thrilling 4th down that had the fans on their feet. Cousins was nearly flawless in this game. Yes, there may have been a big throw here or a small mistake there, but nothing that overshadowed the jaw-dropping production he brought to the field. Why does Cousins play like a possessed quarterback against the Bucs? It's hard to say, but what's clear is that his dominance against them has been key for the Falcons. Without his big play ability, there's no way we can win these games. Cousins has been nothing if not surgical, making big plays exactly when we need them and leading the team with consistency and poise. So, that's why Cousins is our Week 8 MVP. He showed up, delivered another stellar game against the Bucs, and brought home a win that keeps us in a strong position in the NFC South. If Cousins can bring that level of firepower week after week, the Falcons have every reason to be optimistic about what's to come. Alright, Falcons fans, I want to hear from you. Do you think Kirk Cousins can keep up this form as we face tougher teams down the stretch? What are your expectations for him as we head toward the playoffs? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. And hey, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more updates. We've got plenty more Falcons news coming your way. Go Falcons!